Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Kristen Rosa, and I'm the marketing manager here at Sunset Learning. And today we're excited to be joined by business technology architects, and they'll be going over some of the features and benefits of Cisco CloudCenter. So presenting today is Gerard Gingco, and he is the CloudCenter engineer at BTA and actually led development of the first public CloudCenter admin training course provided by Cisco. Just a few housekeeping items, and then I'll go ahead and pass it over to Gerard. Please do remain muted for the entire presentation. If you have questions, you can go ahead and post them in the chat box on the bottom right corner, and then Gerard will get to those during the open Q&A session at the end. And we will be recording this session, so if anyone wants to review it or has questions, I'll be sending it out next week to everyone. And I think that's all I have, so Gerard, if you're ready, go ahead and I'll pass it over to you.
Absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. So today we'll be taking a quick look at Cisco CloudCenter and how it can help you manage applications in a modern hybrid cloud environment. What we'll be doing is we'll go over an introduction real quick. We'll take a quick look at CloudCenter. We'll go through some slide deck that will introduce what CloudCenter is. Then we'll hop on over to a live demo. We'll be hopping through some of the high-level features of CloudCenter. And afterwards, we'll be moving on to some real-world talking points. At BTA, we've implemented CloudCenter out in the wild, and so we've been able to build some use cases that help explain and demonstrate how CloudCenter can help enterprises that manage their multi-cloud environments more quickly. And at the end, as Kristen said, we will have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to fill out the chat box, and we'll continue to answer everyone's questions. So again, my name is Gerard Gingco. I'm a cloud systems engineer with Business Technology Architects. I've been with BTA for a couple of years now, working primarily with Cisco's CloudCenter and their enterprise cloud suite. For Cisco CloudCenter, I do a lot of the training materials, in-person or remote training delivery. We also do consulting and also CloudCenter implementation. So, CloudCenter. Let's talk about CloudCenter. So, if you think about your enterprise, every enterprise has a beginning, and in a beginning point, when we start talking about applications in the real world, typically you would have your user, your application, and your cloud, whether it be public cloud or private cloud. But as time can go on, the single user, the single application, and the single cloud can start getting complicated and get complicated very quickly. So what starts out small can get complicated very quickly. And this introduces a lot of problems when you start growing the number of applications and the number of clouds that you're connecting to. So, and what the problem this poses nowadays is that cloud management, not only is it difficult when you have several clouds to manage, but also cloud management is infrastructure focused. For example, if your enterprise has AWS, typically you'll have your AWS engineer logging in and taking a look at your AWS environment. However, if you also have Google, or if you have OpenStack, or if you have a VMware environment, typically there's separate administrators to help manage each of those environments. So when we say that cloud management is infrastructure focused, there's a lot of different knobs between the different environments. For example, the concept of networking in Google is slightly different than how they handle VPCs in AWS, for example, or how they manage networking resources in Azure. And when you start talking about DevOps and infrastructure automation, that's when it gets even more confusing, because now if you have AWS, VMware, or any of these multiple clouds, it's a guarantee that the API calls are going to be different, and you end up needing separate tools for application automation. So again, when you have multiple clouds, your infrastructure layout is different, your infrastructure automation tools are going to be different, your APIs can vary between the different environments, and all the little knobs are different. So how can we take a look at how we can tie these environments together and make it a little bit easier to manage with all your applications? And Cisco's answer to that is the CloudCenter Solution. And CloudCenter, at its heart, is a cross-cloud application management platform that allows you to deploy, model, and manage your workloads. what do these three mean? So by modeling applications, CloudCenter's key deliverable is to help accelerate your application delivery using application profiles. So their claim to fame is to model once and deploy anywhere with full self-service to your users. More on that in a moment. In terms of managing your life cycle of those applications, CloudCenter has a lot of built-in features to help you manage your deployments in different clouds. It helps you migrate your workloads or span across different clouds, and it also makes it easy to upgrade your applications with enterprise features such as integrations into ServiceNow or various IPM solutions. Helps make it easier to manage your IP addressing or service delivery to different teams or end users. And also, it has a very quick time to value. So with CloudCenter, typically when we come in and we do a consultation, a design workshop, and implementation, CloudCenter is usually very quick to install, and usually we can start deploying applications all inside 1 week. We call that our build week. So we typically do a couple of days design workshop and have our build week set up. So CloudCenter has a very good time to value when it comes to deploying all these applications in cross-cloud environments. So let's take a look at what the heart of that technology is. So the application profile. What's cool about the application profile, and if any of you are already in a DevOps environment, application profiles are basically cloud-agnostic descriptions of the applications that you're going to be spinning up. So, for example, in this image, we have a 3-tier web application, which is our WordPress application that we'll be taking a look at. We've got our HA proxy Apache web server. And when I say that this is cloud agnostic, this application description, basically it's using services, packages, and repository links to build this application. So whether you're working AWS, Azure, Google, or VMware, or any of those other supported clouds, basically that description will fit no matter what. You'll be saying, okay, give me a tier with Apache, use these collection of scripts and repositories to build it, and you'll do that for every tier to build the application profile. Now, this application profile is delivered by the CloudCenter manager, and the way that this application is delivered is through the orchestrators. So CloudCenter's patented technology in the orchestrator, basically, in this example, we have 3 orchestrators split out, and it's 1 orchestrator per cloud. And the job of that orchestrator is to take that application profile and translate individual settings such as the VM instance settings, the networking settings. It translates it all into the individual cloud's language per se, or it translates everything into the local cloud's API. So if you have things like, for example, firewall rules or instance sizes, it can translate all that into a local cloud. Now, all of this comes with security. CloudCenter does support SAML authentication, SSO, ADFS. The CloudCenter is also scalable, so there is also a high availability installation as well that uses HA proxy to help make this more redundant. And it's also extendable. So actually, what we do for our classes, most of our classes are controlled by an API. So CloudCenter has a full API that's both north and southbound, so it's me using the API to talk to other technologies such as Cisco UCSD, or receive instructions from an overlying technology such as Cisco's Private Service Catalog or even ServiceNow. So that way you can order applications from CloudCenter using the API, or use this API extensions to reach into infrastructure automation tools like Cisco's UCSD. And also, CloudCenter is also multi-tenant, which allows you to deliver service to different departments and groups. And through our classes, every student gets their own tenant, so they can see how they can use CloudCenter to deliver services, applications, and resources on a per tenant or per team or even per group basis. So let's talk about the CloudCenter solution and some of the common use cases. So some of the use cases that may arise with the complexity of a multi-cloud environment that we've seen are these 4. So application application migration and management. Again, CloudCenter makes it easy to move applications between different clouds and also provide full lifecycle management. So you can move your applications between data centers or to and from the public and private cloud. For dynamic capacity augmentation is another common use case that we've run across. In order to provide high performance on demand, CloudCenter has a lot of built-in features such as elastic scaling that can help augment capacity for sudden bursts in demand. And DevOps and continuous delivery. So one of the great things about CloudCenter is it makes it very easy for your DevOps engineers to log in and just order applications or order VMs or even spin up environments that they need in order to get their code built, tested, and delivered and consumable. So CloudCenter has a lot of built-in tools to help handle this. And also, IT as a service for governance. A big thing in large enterprises is always going to be controlling costs and controlling usage. So one of the great things about CloudCenter, if you can think back to the multi-cloud example, if someone has AWS has their own billings, Google has their own billings, even VMware, even your VMware admins can price out their hardware differently. And it's all different venues to go to grab your costs for use. And it makes it very difficult to control the cost that your users are incurring. However, the CloudCenter, and we'll go into this later, provides that single pane of glass with financial controls, usage metering, and multi-tenant governance to help control what resources users and groups and tenants have access to, and also the amount of resources that they can consume, both in number of VMs, hours, or dollars, depending on how your enterprise may want to handle it. So, taking a look at all this, it's a lot of information, but it's a lot easier to show in person. So we're going to move to a demo, and the way we have it set up is we have our CloudCenter demo environment. We've got two links. We have a CloudCenter manager that's spinning up in Amazon with a dedicated file repository, and we're using Amazon S3 to accomplish that role. We also have PHP IPAN and a custom integration that we're running that we wrote in order to handle our IP addressing. We have a VMware that's in-house on-prem that's sitting on top of Cisco ACI, and we also have our UCSD infrastructure automation with Redux storage. So the demo that we'll be doing will be on this environment. So let's go ahead and let's move to the live demo. All right. So this is Cisco's CloudCenter's dashboard that you see upon logging in. So in this dashboard, you can see that several bits of information are available to you. You can take a look at your overall cloud costs for your tenants or for yourself if you're a standard user. Another thing you can do is take a look at your runtime in terms of hours, and you can take a look at your running a VM. You can sort this by cloud and also by application. So you can see that we have a few different application types. If you're a standard user, you would also put in information here, more on that later. You can check on your cloud statuses for any warnings, as well as take a look at your deployments, track your VM usage by cloud over time, or VM usage by application over time. So this gives you a nice little overview of exactly where you're at in terms of your cloud usage. So let's take a look at our PHP IPAN. So this is our PHP IPAN that we're using to track everything that's happening in our AWS. We've also got an AWS window open to show you what we have currently running. And we also have our VMware environment as well. So in here you can see that we have a single data center. We've got some VMs currently running, as well as our infrastructure VMs to talk to VMware and UCSD. And we also have some shadow IT, and I'll get a little bit more into this later. So what we can do right now is let's take a look at the application profile a little bit closer. So in here, we've got some sample application profiles that we can pick from. look at the WordPress 3-tier application. So here's our WordPress 3-tier application. This is the application profile. And we can take a look at the different tiers that we have spun up. Now, the cloud agnostic descriptions here on the right-hand pane, for example, we were looking at our Apache tier. So our Apache tier will be spun up using a base image that we have in each cloud that is cloud-specific. And we can specify some different properties, such as where to get the application package. And we can also have some places where we can select, wherever we want to get our scripts for configuring Apache. And over here, we also have some very basic firewall rules. And this is on a per-tier basis. So, for example, we have 80 and 443 for our web tier. And for SQL, we'll have our 33 or 6 for SQL database communications. So let's take a look and see what it's like to deploy this application. So I'm going to name this Thursday Demo Sunset 1. Okay, when we move to deploy, there's 2 phases. The first will have all the first page of the deployment screen. It's going to have most of the application-specific settings. If you want to apply new security profiles or terminate protection or setting aging policies, more of the aging policies later. And you also get a chance to specify any general settings that you need to specify in your application profile. For example, if you have any issues for troubleshooting purposes, you can set app failure to true as an example. And so if the application fails, it'll stay up so that you guys, so that your DevOps engineers can go and take a look and see what's going on, troubleshoot. And also the individual tiers. So here, I'm going to implement a scaling policy to demonstrate how this application and how it works, and how CloudCenter can help scale an application, and more of that later. So what I'll do now is I've set these application-specific settings, and now we've gone from the application settings screen over to the infrastructure-specific screen. So we have a few different deployment environments to pick from. We're going to select the hybrid. So we're going to go ahead and try to span this application between our local VMware, our VMware environment, out to AWS. So for this first tier, we're going to select the hybrid. For the database, let's go ahead and let's select the VMware, and we're going to select a medium-sized instance. And we can see that for VMware, since we're running on top of ACI, we have some settings to pick from for VMware. Now, these are some defaults that we have set up in the deployment environment. And also our ACI settings of what VMM integration, APIC, and L3 we're going to be using, as well as what EPG we're going to be deploying to. So for our web tier, let's go ahead and let's spin that up in Amazon. And for those of you currently familiar with AWS, you can see that some AWS instance tests have shown up. We're going to use a t2.small. And also for our load balancer, let's spin that up in Amazon as well, ahead of our web tier. And we're going to use t2.small as well. So that brings us into the infrastructure screen. We're going to hit deploy. This brings us to the deployment page. So what we're going to see is some information regarding who deployed this application, random statistics, update time of when this page last refreshed, who initiated the deployment, who approved the deployment, if the approvals were enabled, as well as information on the different tiers. So if you can see this, the different tiers are currently pointing yellow. That means that CloudCenter is currently working on it. Now, if you see, the database tier has turned from flashing yellow to flashing green. Flashing green means they're starting to go ahead and provision that. If we flip to VMware, we can see that a VM has been cloned, which is our service image, and now we have a VM that's being created. It's been cloned. cloned, it's being provisioned, powered on, and it's on its way. So what's happening here is that this VM is now being bootstrapped and is going to begin receiving instructions from the orchestrator of what packages and scripts it's going to be needing. If we move to AWS and I refresh this, we can see that the Thursday demo of Sunset 1 is starting to initialize. And the same thing here. So where that VM in VMware was spinning up and talking to the orchestrator that we have in VMware, these VMs are spinning up in Amazon, and they're talking to our orchestrator out in Amazon. We can also see down here, the last IP we consumed was .36. If I refresh this page, we can see that .37 is now in use. And that should be what was assigned to this VM down here. Click on this. Summary, it may take a moment, but there it is, 4.37. So we can see the IPAM integration working and assigning addresses out. So this can be useful with the IPAM integration if you have certain IP addressing schemes or if you want to have IP pools that you want to draw from. So while this application loads, this is going to take about 5 to 7 minutes for these instance sizes. Let's take a look at what a deployment would look like if it's already completed. So over here, spun one up last night called Thursday Demo 1. And when your application finishes, this is what you should see. You should see solid green lights for every tier. And for every tier, you can see the details for that VM showing all the different VM properties, such as the host name, the network it's sitting on, and in this, for ACI, you can see that it's sitting in our ECS tenant in a CloudCenter EPG, as well as IP information. And we've also got a couple little access methods here. For example, SSH. So if you ever need to, as a DevOps guy or as an application engineer, you can log in and you could run any of your diagnostic scripts. So this is that database server that's currently spinning in VMware. So that's one of the cool things about CloudCenter is that your application folks, they can, from one interface, they can deploy their applications to an environment, and they can also maintain their VMs all from the same interface without having to have separate logins for the different clouds to access their VMs. And we have a little button that takes us to our application. So here we have deployed the latest version of WordPress. In this instance of WordPress was deployed by Cisco CloudCenter. So this is how quick and easy it is to deploy an application with Cisco CloudCenter. By taking this application profile, what we've done is we've deployed an application very quickly between a VMware, such as the database VM, all the way up to Amazon US East. So that's where our Apache and load balancer instances are currently residing. So let's take a quick look at a couple of the other cool features in CloudCenter. So another big question that we get a lot from companies looking at implementing CloudCenter is they're very interested in cost and usage controls. So let's explore some of those now. So in the administrative panel, we can take a look at usage plans. So usage plans are a good way to kind of limit people. If you can kind of think of like your cell phone plans, how they used to control cell phones by minutes, this is the exact same thing. So you can see that we have some example usage plans. We got a VM plan that lets someone spin up as many as 10 VMs, or a $1,000 bundle plan, kind of like the prepaid cell phone card. Let's examine some of the possibilities. So there is also a VM hour subscription. So for example, if you want to limit someone, a group, or any team, say 200 hours or 1,200 hours of VM usage per month, this would be your choice, a VM hour subscription. There is also unlimited subscription in addition to some of those other options, and also just a per VM subscription. So let's pretend we're going to do a VM hour subscription, and we're going to allow someone to use no more than 100 VMs VML. Let's make that 1,000 hours a month. We can increment that. I believe Google Cloud does it every 10 minutes. You can enable rollover if you want. And then another thing you can do is tack on your own monthly fee, or if you want to build in some cost into providing this users plan down to your users or for different teams. So, for example, if the IT team was providing the services down to, say, like a sales team, to a DevOps team, or to a prod team, you can build in your own monthly fees. So, as an example, let's put down $100, and you can allow unlimited or limited VML overages. And this is the same with all plans. So you can say, if you're going to spend 1,000 hours, you can put in 100 hours of overage, and you can also increase that rate with an overage. So $10 for every hour over 1,000. So just like we did over cell phone plans back in the day. And also any one-time fee that's charged whenever anyone signs up for that plan. Now, a question that we get is, well, what happens, for example, on a 10 VM plan if someone hits their 15 VM limit? So, for example, here we have 10 maximum limit VMs and a 5 overage limit. Basically, all the deployments will continue to persist for that user. However, they just won't be able to consume any more VMs. So anything that's currently deployed will continue to persist. That's one way to control it, is through the users and teams to control it through usage plan. So another question that we get a lot is workload efficiency. So the question is, how does someone know whether their team is making efficient use of the resource sizes that they are using, and if they're currently spending their resources and applications in the best possible cloud? Well, CloudCenter, one of the things it comes with is a built-in benchmarking feature. Let's take a look. So under benchmarks, what benchmarking allows you to do is it allows you to select, let's go back to the application profile, and let's move, like we're going to benchmark WordPress. So let's call this test bench 01. And basically what this uses for a web application by default is it uses basically Apache JMeter, and you can come up with your own test plan if you wanted to. We'll use the standard here. Basically, standard JMeter things, how many requests, how many times to repeat it, and delay between the requests. And any application-specific things that we want to use. If I hit next, it takes us to our benchmark configurations. So what this allows us to do is we can spin applications in different spots, like VMware or Amazon. So let's say we want to compare something between VMware and Amazon. So let's say a load generator, we're going to spin in VMware, let's do medium, medium, and medium for all 3 tiers, and it loads it as a benchmark configuration. So this is all VMware medium size instances. Let's pretend you want to benchmark that against Amazon. So we'll take our load generator, and we'll take our database, and our VMware instance with 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM. So if we want to, we can go to all 3 tiers and select that 2T medium size. And so now you see that both the MySQL and Apache 2 databases, the MySQL database and Apache 2 web tiers have similar capabilities. And we can run a benchmark for those settings if we want. That benchmarking does take a bit of time, so we have a couple completed ahead of time for you, just to demonstrate the type of results that you could achieve or see. So in this example, was basically what we ran. So we have here a VMware versus Amazon. Again, this is just for this application. But basically what we did was we took a US Amazon East with T2 medium instances, and we took a VMware with a VMware large instance, which was also 2 CPU and 4 gigs of RAM. Now for this particular application in this instance, we can see that graphical generator for the completed request per second versus the total cost per hour. We can see for these statistics that Amazon was slightly slightly more efficient in terms of performance, completed requests per second, but it did so at a much cheaper rate. So what this does is anyone who is wanting to benchmark their web application with JMeter, it is telling them, hey, the best price for the performance is Amazon, best performance, and then best price. So in this case, AWS was the winner. And another way you can use it is also saying, hey, is this the right instance size that I should be using? So what we did was we took the same WordPress application in JMeter, and we tried it a few different ways. We used T2.large, we used T2.small, we also used T2.medium. So for the small, medium, large, we want to see what the results would be in terms of dollar per performance. So to see the cost per hour, the small nodes were the cheapest in the bunch, of course, but only did about, I'd say just a little more than half of what the mediums were doing for just slightly more cost. When we move to the T2.large, we can also see that the amount of work completed was the same, but at an increased cost. So this helps us analyze. So in analyzing the results, what we can see is that either the T2 largest was working hard enough, or perhaps that maybe that the extra cost does not justify the performance. So possibly the next step for whoever wants to run this type of benchmark would be to continuously increase the load that JMeter applies until you saw more of a difference. But these are the type of analytics that you can start working with regards to benchmarking in CloudCenter. So again, it's answering the questions of, am I getting the most performance for my dollar, and am I running my application in the best venue? So whether it be any of the clouds or your own VMware cloud, comparing the dollar and efficiency. So a very powerful feature. Now, for the DevOps and DevOps teams, another thing that is very useful is to manage the costs and environments that these teams are spinning up in. So let's move towards the project board. So in the project board, we have an example of Bullet Project 1 that was assigned to the dev team. Now, we're going to introduce a couple of new concepts. So first, you can see here that we have two squares, one for each deployment environment. We've got both a dev environment and a production environment. So let's go over what an environment is really quick. An environment is nothing more than just a logical construct of resources that are what you can assign out to different users and groups. So here you can see we have a few different environments. First, we have our hybrid environment. If we take a look at that, our hybrid environment involves both our Amazon and VMware clouds. And let's say you have a dev team and you want to limit them so that they only spend their DevOps stuff in-house, or perhaps they want to spend it up only in AWS. Well, what you can do is you can create a dev environment such as this. If we take a look at it, you can limit users to VMware. Now, when you define the VMware environment, you can also specify instance types people can use, and also where in your data center that you're going to be spinning these up. So, for example, if you have a network that your DevOps guys use as their sandbox, you can specify your DevOps data center clusters and all your network settings in the ACI for any EPGs that they may be using. And another way of controlling costs for users is also limiting access to what instance sizes they have. So this is where you can limit that in your deployment environment defaults. So let's go back to the project board now that we know what deployment environments are. Let's take a look at these projects together. So we have two theoretical deployment environments, dev and production. What this project CI/CD board allows you to do is, at least for any teams, is to assign budgets to different deployment environments and also be able to promote and move applications between environments. Now, here's another thing that we'll introduce as well, is the concept of CloudCenter macros. So this is our application that we're playing with called Rollerblog. Let's take a look at a Rollerblog application profile. Now, Between a dev and production environment, the one thing that can be different between the two is, for a database, is the set of data you're working with. In your dev environment, for example, if you were in the medical industry or healthcare industry, you may have some dummy data in your dev environment, while your prod data will be prod PHI information. Well, how do you make one application profile work in two different deployment environments? And that is using a clicker macro feature. As you can see here, for the database setup script, in our directory, we're using a macro here. That's for a clicker deployment environment name. So what we have is wherever you deploy this application, it's going to take the name of the deployment environment and then sort of inline into the application profile. So what does this mean for the project board we just saw? If you deploy this application to a dev environment, it's going to pull a script from apps roller dev. If you deploy this to a production environment, it's going to pull from apps roller production. So let's see what that does for us. So if we take a look at our dev environment roller log, we can see that's been deployed. If I try to access it, it brings up a window saying no database tables found. That this application was spun up with nothing in this database. So it still has to create the database tables. You can see the application center log project version 1.1. If we move back and we take a look at the production environment, we can see that this is the exact same application template profile. However, when we bring it up, because this is our production environment, it's pulling a different database setup script that pulls data from production. So we can see here that this instance, when it was spun up, the database was started using some pre-existing old data. But you can see that it pulls from two different sets. So you've got one application profile from multiple deployment environments. And this was accomplished using Clicker CloudCenter's macro features. So that's a really cool feature in CloudCenter. And that one of the things that makes it very flexible is that even though you have one application profile, you can still be flexible in the design of your application by using dynamic variables in your profile. So I mentioned before regarding policies and scaling. So one of the popular ways to augment capacity for burst capacity or to help control your users is through policies. This is another thing that we set up very frequently for enterprise customers. So for example, scaling policies. In here we've set up a scaling demo. If you recall, I applied this to the application that we cast up earlier. Let's take a look at the properties. So for the scaling policy, what we set up is we set thresholds to scale out and scale in. For the purposes of this demo, the polling interval was set short to 3 minutes for 120 seconds, and if it breaches at 4 minutes, it'll check those conditions. If it's greater than 7% say memory utilization, there's network-free memory in any of these, it'll go ahead and scale up. So here we've artificially set it low to 7%. It'll scale out, just so we can demonstrate how it scales out. And of course, anytime you scale out, you have to scale in. So this we've set to less than 7. Now, of course, depending on your application, these are just dummy values for the purposes of the demo. It will be up to your DevOps. You have to select what is appropriate for their application. That's one of the scaling policies we can set. There's also aging policies. Now, what's cool about aging policies, and we hear a complaint about a relatively new term called shadow IT, just stuff that runs on forever. Well, with aging policies, what you can do is you can apply aging policies universally to different deployment environments or to application deployment to help control, so that way when someone, say from a dev team, tries to spin up a vanilla VM to do some testing, you can say, okay, nothing in dev should live longer than 12 hours. That's kind of where the setting comes in. So you can either suspend or terminate deployments. That's where aging policies can be useful. So let's see if our scaling policy took effect. If we move back to our deployments, so application has already finished deploying, but it's also scaling up. Okay, so we deployed this about 20 minutes ago. It should already be scaling up at least once or twice. It also already scaled up a couple times to this. It's on its third iteration already. If we click on Access WordPress, here is the installation page. So, thinking back about that application, within minutes we're able to deploy WordPress. We're able to deploy it in a cross-cloud manner. We were able to apply a scaling policy to meet immediate demand. So this is what's so cool about CloudCenter, is it's so easy for users to have a self-service environment to deploy applications and VMs as they need. But, we've talked a lot about end users. What about, administrative users? So we've seen some of the administrative features in terms of cost and usage controls, deployment environment controls, but there's a lot of questions about, okay, great, so CloudCenter, if BT installs this in our environment, what can it do for the things that we have today? Well, this year, one of the newer features of CloudCenter is the ability to control existing brownfield environments and then absorb them into CloudCenter. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log out of our demo admin account, and we'll log into our root admin account. And the reason I'm logging into our root admin account is because this admin account is what controls this is the cloud owner for our VMware environment. So looking at this from a management perspective, the virtual machines is a new one. There's two tabs we're going to do. One is the virtual machines tab and also our actions library tab. So our virtual machines tab is our look down into what virtual machines are currently running in the environment, both managed and unmanaged. So in terms of managed virtual machines, you can see all our currently running and existing virtual machines in Amazon and all the clouds. Except for this cloud agnostic, it just sees everything as one collection of VMs. You can see properties of the individual VMs. So for example, our Relic blog in our dev environment, we can bring up all the properties through here in the administrative view. And when we start talking about shadow IT, here's the selling point that we give to administrators who are pondering CloudCenter. So under the unmanaged tab, what we can do is say, let's look at our VMware environment. Let's see if there's anything that's not currently managed or VMs that we may not know exist or that we need to absorb. So in here, I've dropped some example VMs. So you can see that in VMware, we have a Capture Me VM. And we can do certain things to that VM, such as importing it into CloudCenter. Once it's imported into CloudCenter, what that does is it brings under CloudCenter management. So here, I have another Capture Me VM that I've imported into CloudCenter, which takes a few minutes. And we can see this error saying that it's imported, but no agent is installed. Once a VM is under CloudCenter management, we can do things such as install the CloudCenter agent, which is a lighter version of the CloudCenter agent that facilitates management for advanced features. And we can also do things like create snapshot, attach volume, or some basic VMware functionality. Same thing in AWS, it can also let you do other things such as change instance sizes. Let's take a look at one of the ones that we've already got the agent running on. So here you can see that this has the 4808 installed on it, and this will allow us to do a few other things, including these two example action library items. So what's cool about this is action library items. This allows you to perform actions on VMs remotely. So for example here, we have one that's a CentOS update, and you can say that this runs directly on the machine, set timeouts, and whether or not to reboot the VM or sync information. Of course, if you have a split environment between Linux and Windows, you can configure this to run only on your Linux VMs or your Windows VMs or whichever cloud regions. Now, of course, the CentOS update is only going to apply to Linux. And basically, all this is going to do is we're going to use this to execute a quick command on the VM that just says hey, update and touch a file that says hello world in temp. So what we can do here in the virtual machines tab is we can take that capture new VM with an agent and we can execute any action in the library item against it. Now, it was asked to us before how this is useful. Well, this can help track the VMs that you have in your different environments, bring them under CloudCenter management, and execute bulk actions against them in terms of just managing all your VMs. So let's take a quick look at what we've already gone through. Let me grab this. And let's just review real quick on the different, let's touch real quick on what we just talked about. So capacity, let's talk just a little bit about real world use cases. So capacity augmentation hybrid cloud. So CloudCenter allows you to quickly deploy applications to multiple clouds. What we've seen, we had one enterprise customer, what they did was they had their own big data centers and they acquired another company that was very AWS heavy. And what this CloudCenter enabled them to do was once they got their application profiles built, was now they could very easily throw their application up in other clouds, and make it very easy for users to consume resources across either cloud. Now, speed to delivery is a huge one. We hear this, I think we've heard this from every single enterprise customer. We had one customer where it took 45 days to deliver a VM. Now, why is that? Many people are familiar that, oh, if I need a resource, I need to fill a form. I need a ticket. The ticket goes from them, goes to help desk will go to systems to appropriate the storage and VM. It'll go to network to get the networking constructs built. That ticket then goes to security to release it, and any other number of teams to deliver VM. Well, the CloudCenter, once you have your deployment environments built and your service image is ready to go, users can just log in and deploy the VMs, just as we did with WordPress. Now, cost and usage controls. We had one customer, they charged $10,000 flat rate per VM simply because they had no idea how to bill it to their end users. CloudCenter, what it allows you to do is, since you can have control over what resources they consume, assign pricing plans, report down on their controls, and any consumption that takes place, as well as being able to build in any additional costs or assign custom pricing to different instance types, now you can get more granular on your billing. So not only does it get granular on billing, but it also helps you save costs for your different team members and also track funds more accurately. And we went over already with benchmarking. There's a common question being, am I using the right instance sizes? Am I deploying in the right place? Benchmarking helps to answer those questions to allow you to test your application in different configurations in the cloud. CI/CD workflows. Again, this goes back to quickly deploying applications to multiple clouds. Your DevOps team no longer has to fill tickets every time they want to test their application. Give them their different environments, give them their budget, and let them have at it with their application profiles. So the CI/CD workflows and project board allow your DevOps team to be more productive, so they're doing more building and testing and delivery rather than waiting for their tickets to get passed around. So this helps, again, accelerating the application delivery. Performance handling, it was a question, how do they handle demand, reactive, whether they want reactive or pre-planned, scaling elasticity. That's something that has to be configured in order to help address changing demands, and also day 2 operations. So this was actually a good question we got from one customer. They said, okay, all of this looks very, and the term they used was open sourcing. That so much of this, most of the demo that we gave them was Linux. Well, they said, okay, our application runs .NET and it's on Windows. What can CloudCenter do for me? And so we told them, okay, tell us a little bit more about your application. Is it all right? So it's mostly in Windows. Um, we do update the application. Typically, we have just some scripts, and what we found out was those scripts were actually just some guy passing them around on a USB stick and occasionally sticking them up on a network share. Well, CloudCenter, what we discussed with them was, well, here's what you do. Using a brownfield absorption, absorb the Windows VM applications. In your action library, create action library items to point to your update script on your repository. So now what you can do is, in order to update your VMs or execute, let's say Windows updates, or to execute an upgrades script, what you can do is, with the action library item, you can provide RBAC access to different teams to the action library items. Now you can manage all your Windows servers with full RBAC access to different users in CloudCenter. There's no more handing around a USB drive or having to worry about network permissions to that file, to that network share, where people are going in and out. So this provides a central control for running PowerShell, and these are PowerShell scripts running on their Windows server. So they like that a lot. So I know we're running really short on time. I hope this information is very useful to you all. Let's move to the questions and answers section. In these last few minutes, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat window. Krista, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I did want to mention we do have that CloudCenter admin course if anyone wants a little bit more in-depth training. We do have a guaranteed to run course coming up December 11th through the 13th. And so I believe it's the only CloudCenter course that does accept learning credits. So very cool. I'll send this out to you guys, and I'll include a link to that course if you want a little bit more information.
All right, and then for more information about BTA, we're available at, there's our contact information. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. And we're also at gobta.com as well for more information with any of the services that we can provide as well. And of course, the CloudCenter admin training through